Hello, good afternoon.
Hey, Sarah.
My name is Sarah, and I work with the Living Archives Project, where we are collecting stories of how COVID-19 impacted various communities in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County. Today is May 25th, 2023, and this week there were 20 reported cases of COVID-19 in Charlotte-Mecklenburg County area, which actually shows a 18% decrease over the last 2 weeks. Therefore, each subject is wearing a mask today for comfortability. Lenny, would you introduce yourself?
I'm LennyTran. I am a 44-year-old Asian man of Asian descent, and I have black hair. I'm 5'10" and medium build. I'm wearing a checkered shirt that is blue and kind of pink.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing, Lenny. So tell me, have you lived in Charlotte your whole life or around Charlotte?
I've lived in North Carolina most of my life. My family immigrated to Iowa from Vietnam when I was just very soon after I was born. I was 1 year old. Wow. We came down to North Carolina because we had relatives here, and my dad continued school in Winston-Salem. So we've been around this area and with a lot of relatives in Charlotte.
That's amazing. So you've seen Charlotte kind of transition through a lot of phases if you've been here most of your life. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you about the city you live and have worked in for so long?
I remember when I was really young, early elementary school, being here and seeing the city start to grow into what it is today, and then thinking like, I kind of always wanted to come back here because of the way it was growing, and like just seeing the interstate go up, and the skyline being built and everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, Charlotte is it's growing big, and it's very beautiful with the skyline. I love it. So Lenny, tell me, we did this activity together before we started our interview called a hand map. Is there anything from your hand map that you would like to share with us?
I did write on there a couple of times about my husband. We just completely by coincidence, of course, we got married in 2019, right before the pandemic. So we were really happy with the timing of that, because it would have been very different. Yeah. We would have not had the experiences that we had with having all of our family together and experiencing the way that we did. The main thing that way that it affected that process was that our plans for our honeymoon completely changed, because we had planned. So my husband and I have been together since 2007, and he was a Japanese minor in college, but he never got to travel there or to do to study abroad or anything. So it was always his dream to be able to go travel to Japan. And then as soon as, I don't know how early they announced it, but as soon as they announced that the 2020 Olympics were going to be in Tokyo, we said, that was going to be our honeymoon. whenever after we got married, and then the COVID happened, and we had gotten tickets for it and had to get a refund, and then it kept getting delayed, 1 or 2 years, I forget what, and then it wasn't even until last fall of 2022 that they even opened up the country back for international travelers. So we did get to go back in just a month ago.
Yeah. So that's crazy that you had to wait over 2 years to go on your honeymoon to Japan. Wow. So
Yeah.
when you finally got to go, how was it? How was your
It was
trip?
great. So I totally left this out because it's been so much to think about. So before we got married, we went to Tokyo with my parents.
Okay.
So we did get to experience that, and then because we couldn't make it back to Japan for our honeymoon for the Olympics, we went to Paris because that had opened up, and then a month ago we went back to Tokyo, and I love it there. One of the things about traveling there is that they are very COVID safe still, so it made me feel like really safe. That they still, even though it was never mandated under law, they still wear masks, and when you go out to anywhere where there's public seating or to fast food or a restaurant, every seat has plexiglass between every person. So
Wow.
So it's like you're covered in all ways that you feel like I feel like we should be,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So you felt very safe and secure
Yeah.
traveling there. That's awesome. What was one of the biggest highlights of your trip that you recently had to Japan?
Biggest highlight, we went to, I know they have some here, but we went to conveyor belt sushi, which was really great. It was the best sushi I ever had. And then one of the highlights was that they had as an option to order puffer fish, blowfish, which is one of the most poisonous types of fish or types of animals in the world, but they are specially trained to remove the poison and make it safe for you, hopefully.
I hope.
So did you
get to try it?
Yeah, it's part of the adventure to.
Yeah. Was it good?
Yes.
Awesome. What does it taste like?
It kind of tastes like squid or octopus.
Okay.
Kind of that taste and texture.
You're so brave. You're so
Well, I
brave.
was like, my husband was like, it's our chance to try it, and he wanted to, and I was like, well, it's happening. this might be the end of everything. But.
Oh man, well I'm really happy it was not the end of everything. So, wow, so let's go back a little bit. So you got married in 2019, had a great wedding, honeymoon went on delay, and then early 2020, COVID came to the US, and then we kind of went on lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you?
In the early days of COVID, when it wasn't here yet, I had been following the news because I try to keep up with things about health. I read a lot about health and technology and science, and things that are going on internationally. And and about virology and everything. So I knew that that things had started to become disrupted with travelers from China with Chinese New Year, and that that people had been started to be screened at different airports for like fevers and everything. And the more that I read about it, I knew that something like big was going to happen if all of these hotspots were happening around the world. Some of the different forums I was reading online were saying, how that you could prepare for it. So I actually had like in mid-February was kind of like my prepping started. Like I started buying disinfecting supplies and things that people were saying that you needed in case like we went on lockdown, like bottled water and things on Amazon, stuff like that. Things that were, people who had been following the news knew that we were like needing to prep for. That was my February, and then in March, I had started doing working for this marketing company that was kind of like getting social media influencers to help them advertise different like hotels in the area. And so we had done a couple of trips with them before where like they would put us up in a hotel and book us for like a show or in some bars, and then so we would take pictures and post online and stuff with their like tags and their hashtags. So after there started to be some cases in the United States, like things started to get canceled, like big festivals and sports tournaments and stuff like that, and some of the like larger tech companies started sending their employees home. But in Charlotte and around here, it was still mostly like wait and see. So we had a trip to Greenville, South Carolina, where everything was still going as normal, but we were still kind of like, should we be doing this? Is this being in big crowds of people? Is that is this the wrong time to go out and spend time with like big crowds of people? And then I remember like breakfast the next morning, they had newspapers out at the hotel restaurant, and it was about like the first local cases. And we knew like this stuff like this isn't going to happen again for a while. And then got back to Charlotte, and the banks had already closed, but the library had not, because we're more like essential frontline services. And I am not sure, but I feel like maybe the library wanted to still be like a safe place and a resource for people while everything else was kind of changing for people. But then we were probably one of the last like businesses to close. But I remember that day, like people asking, like, how long do you think
Yeah.
will be closed? And, people are saying like a week, 2 weeks. And I was like, well, I don't think that we're going to open back up like anytime before fall.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, when the library closed for good for that day, and that we were being sent home, I was like, there was part of me thinking like, everything is going to be different, like everything is going to change, and there's a chance like that a lot of these people I might never see again.
Yeah.
Because of the fatality rate and how fast it was spreading around the world and around the area.
Yeah. And so once the library did take that step, you were home for how long?
I was home for, it's hard to remember now, but I did, before the library opened back up, which I don't know when, but sometime that summer, they started needing me back in the office, not because the office was back open, but because we were working from home, but the library foundation where I worked was still getting mail, still possibly getting donations in the mail, and because that's my job to receive those, I had to come 1 or twice a week.
Yeah.
to open the mail and deposit checks and stuff like that. And I remember like I lived in Uptown at the time, and I remember like walking to work, and I would be maybe one of 2 people that was outdoors.
Wow.
Because we weren't allowed to unless we were essential workers.
Yeah.
And people that dealt with like financial work were considered essential.
Yeah.
So it was very strange.
Yeah.
And then we didn't know then how much safer it was to be outside. Like, everyone thought like outside was the wrong place to be, like you should be in your home. Mm-hmm. And so it felt, like dystopian to go out and be like one of the only people that was outdoors.
Yeah.
Walking to work. And then we also didn't know then that that COVID didn't really spread like on surfaces. Like people were still, like a lot of people were still like sanitizing everything before they touched it, and wearing gloves, and wiping down their groceries when they came back from the grocery store. So I was like in like a mask and like a hooded, plastic face mask, and I had on gloves, and I was like opening the mail and then like sanitizing it, because I was like, these were like things that everyone else had touched.
Yeah.
So that was my every day for a while.
Wow. How did that make you feel?
I felt like that, I mean, that we were all like almost like employees in like working in a lab, basically. Mm-hmm. Like the level of contamination precautions that you would have to take in a hospital or a lab was like what we felt like we needed to do if we were like out of our homes.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and with, and I mean, different from a lot of other people, I was mentally prepared to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it was necessary. Like if this protects me, then that's what I need to do. Just as if you were working in a place that required that, and also I had the supplies to do that because I had been preparing for so long, before COVID, stocking up and having masks and gloves and everything, and disinfectants.
And so now fast forward, how has the transition been for you, kind of coming out of that phase and now being full-time back at work, in person? Tell me about that.
It worried me a lot for us to be back in the same space and to, now that we know that COVID is airborne, to share the same space and the same air. That worried me a lot, and it worried me to when the mask requirements started to change and be dropped and everything because it happened faster than I felt like that it was safe. That we hadn't gotten to a point yet where if I took off my mask or if I worked next to someone that I wouldn't get sick. It was just kind of my resolution that I wasn't going to get sick from anyone else with COVID or anything.
Yeah. Wow. So tell me about your family. How did you feel that your family was impacted?
I was starting with my brother. He works at a hospital in Virginia. He's a doctor, and he was on the front line with treating patients that were coming in for COVID. So that was very worrying at first because they didn't have PPE. So they were just having to use whatever resources they had, like making their own their own hoods and their own face protection from just other things that they had. That worried me for him to be at first exposed without the right equipment, and then also even when they started getting supplied with that, for him to be one of the people that was intubating people that were on ventilators, because that's it's an aerosol producing event. So I worried about that with him being exposed to that, and then at that time he was starting a family, so worried about his wife who was pregnant, and then when they had a kid, worried about everyone getting sick from the type of work that he did. And then also around the same time, my dad developed autoimmune disease. And so that made him especially vulnerable. And then he started having to start chemo because of that. So, which means that he would be immunocompromised.
Yeah.
So I felt like from many different angles, not just for myself, but that I needed to stay healthy in case something happened to them, and then also if I ever wanted to visit them, to be like absolutely sure that I hadn't contracted COVID or was asymptomatic or anything like that. Especially at the beginning before we had tests or vaccines or anything like that.
I can imagine. Did you have to take any like safety protocols to just when you had to interact with your dad, just to be on the safe side? Yeah.
So we up until this year, really, we've always worn masks around each other. And then I've had to take my dad to chemo treatments. Like I have to take a road trip with him up to Duke. And so really my choice, but I would wear a mask when we were in the car. I would wear a mask when I was staying in the hotel room, if I was sharing a hotel room with him. Even if he felt comfortable without, like I didn't, because it was, like I said, it was kind of my resolution to stay healthy.
Yeah, yeah. Since you were someone that cared for him and took him to these appointments, did you find that these appointments were a little more restricted than usual because of COVID protocols from the beginning to now?
Yeah, so it's funny because it started out very restricted, still every time you go, they ask the normal screening questions about have you tested positive in the last 2 weeks? Have you traveled internationally? Anything like that. But where they seated him for treatment, it wasn't separate rooms, but they have curtains in between everyone. Mm-hmm. And every time that we've gone, it's a little less restricted. Now they the curtains aren't always there. They're not really there's not as many there's not all the signs everywhere saying that everyone has to wear a mask. And then the other times that I went, they screen you before you even go through the hospital, right when you come in the door. If you're not wearing a mask, they give you a mask. They take your temperature. And it's funny because I just came back from there on Monday, and this past time they replaced the COVID and mask screening with weapon screening.
Wow.
So all the COVID stuff is gone, and now it's replaced with metal detectors, and they're searching your bags because, that's where we are now.
What went through your mind when you saw that?
I was just what went through my mind is that you know, what a place that our country is in right now. That
it's heavy.
Yeah.
And a reality. Whew. How about your community, Lenny? How do you see over these last 3 years, COVID related or not necessarily directly related to COVID, but how have you seen your community be impacted over these last 3 years?
I don't, let me think about how to answer that.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't, I think for me, I've kind of had, because of COVID, had to get used to most things being just me and my husband, or me and my husband and like close family, a close set of friends, because I'm still taking precautions, and because I still gauge, like, before I go into every situation, like, is it safe?
Yeah.
So most of my socializing is online, and then and I would guess the best way to say it is that that we still are using, like, we still have a bubble where it's pretty rare for us to be around other people physically. It's nice because that is starting to expand. You know, like our family is starting to get together again. We are going to all see each other at my cousin's house for Memorial Day weekend. And then I have like one or two other friends in Charlotte that I'll go to dinner with.
Yeah.
But not much beyond that. I would say it's a community of me, basically.
Yeah, I understand. You put a lot of limitations due to wanting to stay safe and protect yourself and your family and everything that's around you. You mentioned, the shift at Duke between COVID questions to gun violence questions.
Yeah.
And recently, I've had a conversation with, I haven't even shared this with you, but I had a conversation with a relative of yours who shared about her experience with the fear around the Asian hate crimes that were happening over these last few years in response to COVID. Is there anything that you experienced yourself?
Not in the same way. I didn't experience it firsthand. It didn't affect me in that way, but it affected me seeing that it was happening.
Yeah.
To know that it was out there, and that especially with my parents being Asian seniors, that a lot of it was directed towards those people as like innocent victims to think that people were being attacked and discriminated against in that way.
Yeah. How did that make you feel?
I think that it I don't know the right words for it, but it with everything going on politically in the United States, it with the violence and the threats and the political corruption and discrimination, it made me think about my parents and how they had escaped Vietnam because of war to bring my family to a better place and for them to be safe from those things that were happening in their home country, and then to come here and in like their post-retirement like stage, one of their final stages of their life, to be in a climate where those things were all happening again. I was like, you left to be away from that. You know, you left to be in a place, to be in America where everything was supposed to be better, and where there was, you weren't supposed to worry about, being banned from somewhere because of your race or religion, or to be somewhere that was a democracy and not have that be threatened.
Yeah, I can imagine how frustrating that might feel to watch, like, your parents striving for that freedom, that democracy, and to have had them experience so much unrest.
Yeah. And my mom has said, to me, like, it's the things she sees here and on the news are worse than it was when she was in Vietnam.
Wow.
So
that's
I think if you like really, we normalize it, but to really think about, what people are saying and and trying to, break into the government grounds and overthrow the government and everything, and to like try to assassinate government leaders and everything.
Yeah. That is a very interesting perspective that she shares, and very true, I can imagine, for her. So Lenny, out of respect to honor your time and respect for you, I'll follow up with one last question. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Maybe an experience, a story, anything from the past 3 years?
I think one of the good things that has come about from all of us going through the COVID experience together is a lot more understanding for a lot more understanding about work-life balance.
Yeah.
And where people are with their mental health.
Yeah.
That for all of us to be able to come to work and do our best, and then also deal with all these new complications that have come about in our everyday lives of just trying to do normal things, that there's a lot more flexibility, a lot more understanding in that people are going through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate that about like the way that things have changed.
Yeah, I agree with you. Is there a way in your life where do you find that throughout your experience that you've been able to balance that more even for yourself?
Yeah, so my husband works from home full time now, so that's made it a lot easier for him because he doesn't have that commute. Mm-hmm. And then I work from home on Wednesdays, so we get to see a lot more of each other.
Yeah.
And our lives just are a lot more home centered because of that, and it's good.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Lenny, thank you for sharing your story with us today and for your time. We appreciate you so much.